This next restaurant provides exactly what most Phantom fans look for. Incredible food, reasonable prices, in a very cool but casual atmosphere. Add in one of the best burgers in Greater Boston, and you have today's special. Clams and chorizo, burgers and chips, gelato and espresso. Great foods come together at Steel Rye. At Steel Rye in the Lower Mills section of Milton, owners Dan Kerrigan and chef Chris Parsons have created a huge industrial eatery in a building that was once a garage.
The steel really represents the space with all the steel structure in here, and the rye represents the first water-powered grist mill in the country, which was in Lower Mills.
The space itself is open and airy with high ceilings and an active open kitchen where customers can sit and watch their meal cooked right before their eyes.
A lot of people that really enjoy cooking, and they're intrigued by how a restaurant works. And they just watch, and it's a puzzle back there, kind of the dance, so to speak. It is a little mesmerizing to watch.
The menu features classic American dishes like roasted chicken served in a huge skillet on a heaping pile of grits.
Here it was interesting to try and find food that really matched the space. And what we've sort of ended up with, what we call sort of an Americana style. A little bit of a tribute to the space, and it's just what feels right here. It's food that has a little bit of nostalgia to it, a little bit of hominess, still very seasonal, still very representative of New England.
And while the menu represents local favorites, it is anything but ordinary. So rather than your typical clam chowder, Steel Rye features an oyster stew, loaded with oysters, fresh fish, applewood, bacon, and potatoes.
Everybody does clam chowder, so we did something a little different. The oyster stew is definitely a little lighter, I think a little bit more elegant.
It has that creaminess, that great flavor, but it's not really heavy on the palate. A lot of stuff in there. For every bite, it's more stuff than broth.
Clams can also come topped with flavorful chorizo breadcrumbs. The recipe is rustic, but the presentation is rather elegant.
They're on a nice warm bed of sea salt, keeps them nice and hot.
And then we hit it with the torch, and everyone who sits at the counter loves to see that. You get that nice charred, a little bit of crispiness and those charred flavors. It is a very simple presentation, but it's kind of striking because we put little piles of salt, and it's very rustic, but very pretty at the same time.
Carnivores are most definitely covered at Steel Rye. There's a creamy, dreamy polenta topped with a beef ragu. Flavorful Colorado meatballs come in a cast iron skillet, and the burger is served in a nostalgic metal tin with house-made chips and pickles on the side.
It's just a little pan with little handles, and we use a little mason jar to put our homemade pickles in. So it definitely has a little bit of a kind of old-timey feel to it.
And this isn't just any burger. This is the burger.
We actually wrote on the menu, the burger, because it's kind of an event.
We make our own brioche buns, we make our own potato chips, steak sauce.
I think this is the burger of all burgers.
Another popular item is the double-cut pork chop, a personal favorite for both Dan and Chris.
So that's probably my favorite dish on the menu right now, is that double-cut pork chop.
It's one of my favorites too.
The pork chop's perfectly cooked through every time. It's just tender enough in the center, it's really juicy, and served bone-on.
It's definitely not one of our healthiest dishes, that's for sure. But I would say it's a worthy indulgence.
Worthy indulgences also come at the end of the meal in the form of the affogato. A scoop of house-made vanilla gelato is served on a bed of chocolate semifreddo and garnished with cookies and house-made chocolate pop rocks.
And the server dumps espresso right over the top of the dish, so everything starts to meld together, all the flavors come together, and it's a nice soft texture. And you're hearing the crackling of the pop rocks as the espresso hits it.
And whether you're popping back some fried olives over prosciutto whipped cheese from the bar menu or sitting down for something more substantial, you're going to feel at home.
It's not stuffy or snotty at all, and that's the best part about it. It's a neighborhood place. It's a great place to hang out. It's good music, high energy, you know, not loud in the dining room areas, but the bar has got a good vibe to it.
Our whole thing is we really want the restaurant to be comfortable and fun.